but the conversations and the planning that's involved in aging in place can be difficult. And we have the authors of the book, Difficult Aging in Place Conversations, with us today. And so I'm really charged up to welcome them to the stage. We have four authors in the book, but I want to say there are um like 20 authors of this particular book. But if I can get our authors to turn their mics off and jump on stage with me, that would be amazing. And welcome Tara, welcome Dr. Newman, welcome Melanie, welcome Sue. Really charged up at the conversation that we're going to have today. And Tara, I'm going to start with you because this is probably one of the coolest projects that I've ever heard of, where the National Aging in Place Council has been authoring books and bringing together a collaborative of experts to put together on these interesting topics. Tell us a little bit about yourself and National Aging in Place Council, and then we'll dive into the book and meet some of the other authors.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you for having us on today. It's nice to be back to the positive aging community and to share our word about the National Aging in Place Council. So I saw some familiar names that I see there on the participant screen. So hi, if you are aware of us, but we are a nonprofit trade association and also a foundation that really focuses on connecting communities with resources. We're all about collaboration, education, and advocacy. So we have about 400 members across the country, and they all fall into one of what we consider to be the 5 pillars of aging, which is housing, healthcare, finance, transportation, and social engagement. And if you've happened to look at the book's table of contents, that's also how we have the book separated into those 5 categories. So you're correct. This is the second book that we have. We have 28 authors that participated in this one. 26 that participated in the first book, which is just Aging in Place Conversations. And that was more of just a general discussion about topics questions we get asked a lot. So this book, we really wanted to dive into the really difficult, uncomfortable questions that people don't talk about, or they wait until there's a crisis happening and then the number of options that are available are fewer, or if they just done it a little earlier, it would be a lot easier. So we kind of redefine aging in place a little bit in this book as well. I think a lot of people think aging in place is staying in the home you've lived in your whole life, you've raised your kids there, and now you have to stay there until you pass away. But that's not necessarily the case. Aging in place, we consider home is where you lay your head. So we want to make your home as comfortable and safe as possible for as long as possible. And when it's not safe to be in that home any longer, that you do have a lineup, a plan to go where you want. It's about maintaining control and being able to choose your future instead of a path that somebody else wants you to take. So, and I also want to say thank you, Steve, for writing out the introduction to our book. So you mentioned that. I forgot to mention that.
That's a pretty cool segue, because I wanted to share with everybody the table of contents, and then we'll dive in to some of the authors. But like all of our discussions, I'm hoping that there's things here, whether it's one of our authors on the stage, but if there's things here that we can have a conversation around, have at it, folks. We like to make these interactive, so you can type in your questions using chat or Q&A. But let's take a look at the table of contents here. And yes, they asked me to do an intro, and I think I scrambled around to pull that together by the deadline, but I think it turned out pretty well. But then we've got the first chapter of Facilitating Difficult Conversations, Keys to Successful Aging and Thriving and Surviving with Catherine Owens. And then, as Tara had mentioned, these are centered around sections with pillars. So you've got housing. Now comes the time to talk about a move. When to declutter and downsize. Stubborn parents in an aging house with worried family members. How can we find the right words? Home safety tips. And one of my longtime good friends here, Louis Tenenbaum, wrote some dynamics of home accessibility decisions. So that's the housing chapter, then your housing section. Then you go into the healthcare section, addressing urinary incontinence, navigating life-changing diagnosis, end-of-life wishes, surgery in older adults, discussing housing treatment and care options, medication matters. How can I get mom to use her walker? Oh man, these are some great chapters. Receiving and accepting a dementia diagnosis. And we've got Dr. David Newman here today, and his chapter was, am I really ready for joint replacement surgery? Man, that's something I feel like I'm talking to people on a weekly basis about. So then the next section, finance and family, when's the right time to claim Social Security? Tara, you wrote that chapter, so if anybody's got questions there. The probate process as it relates to real estate, the use of home equity in retirement. That's Sue, one of our featured authors that's here today. And then one of my favorite topics, aging solo, is in that section. And then the next one is transportation and travel. And we've got Melanie Henry here today, whose her chapter was, when is the time to take away the keys? So I'm really psyched to talk a little bit about that today with you, Melanie. And what if you die during traveling? Wow, great chapter there. And I think the last section is social issues, older adults with special needs children, very important, cultural considerations for your old aging loved ones, deciding who will take care of your family members, protecting privacy, getting help for difficult people, and being prepared. Now, folks, I know there's probably some people in the audience that are sort of like, why the heck did you read through all that? The main reason is to illustrate how robust this book is. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. Number two, I wanted all of those chapter titles to be planted seeds in our minds today for our discussion, because I think we can talk about a lot of those things. And Tara, can you repeat the title of the book? And do you mind dropping in a link to where people can get it?
Sure, I can absolutely do that. So the book we just released in October is Difficult Aging in Place Conversations. Melanie's holding it up there. And the first one that we released last year is just Aging in Place Conversations. Both of them are available on Amazon
Okay.
and we're about to release the audio version of this book in May. So stay tuned for that.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. Okay. All right. So let's dive into this discussion. And we've got four authors on the stage. Tara's already talked. So Tara, we'll talk about Social Security a little bit in a little bit. But I am just gonna I'm gonna, they usually say ladies go first, but we are in a inclusive society, and so I'm going to start with Dr. David Newman. And Dr. Newman, your chapter is about joint replacement surgery, but what words of wisdom can you share with us on this topic, or any topic for that matter, related to aging in place?
Yeah, sorry about that. So hi, so happy to be here. Listening to all those chapters in the book, having your physical health and not being in chronic pain helps you achieve almost everything in that chapter. Whether you can get in and out of your car, whether you want to live alone and find a housing where you can, exist in happiness. And physical health there's nothing, to me as an orthopedic surgeon, there's really nothing I'm more passionate about than helping people achieve and maintain physical health. However, as you know, and as you age, our joints are not so forgiving. So there will be a time where they start to slowly degenerate, whether it's from an old injury, a previous athletic life, or a new injury. Joint pain is so common because there's just so many joints in the body. And when you get there, and you have that joint pain, you're like frustrated. I know as an aging person, but I also have my parents still around, and they know almost every day they can tell me about some ache and pain that's just reared their head, whether they're working out in the gym, took too long a walk, played too much golf, whatever it might be. Joint pain is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. So joint replacement surgery is an awesome treatment modality, but it's not really for everyone right away. So I encourage people, because it is a treatment, not a cure, that if you do one when you're 45 or 50, it's not going to last you for the rest of your life. I'm a huge advocate of embracing alternative treatments, some injections, stretching, physical therapy, strengthening, to really kind of exhaust all these things. Even arthroscopic surgery, which is not a joint replacement, but rather small incision, camera in the joint, clean out the joint, make things smooth again. Great treatment for 2 to 5 year and even 10-year, prolonging the need for that joint replacement. But I just recently read how important joint replacement surgery is, how it beats education and exercise for the right person. Meaning you've tried everything and your joint is just either bone on bone, which all the cushions have disappeared or worn out, or you got some mechanical irritations inside your joint, so the nerves are stimulated and you feel pain getting in and out of bed, doing regular activities of life, and it brings people down. Joint replacement with the right surgeon in the right atmosphere, preparing for it well, meaning get your home ready for it, stay in shape, lose some weight, maintain as much flexibility as you can, and you will bounce out of that surgery feeling such less pain that you'll be like, oh my goodness, why didn't I do this 10 years ago? But, you wait for as long as you can to do it, but not, unfortunately, there's the other side of the ball game, which is, okay, your body is too weak because you're 85 or 90 and maybe you can't do it then either. So there is a window, and everybody's different, and age is only a chronological thing. So whether you're 55, 65, or 70, you could probably do it at 78 or 80 if you're physically okay, your brain is still working, you don't have a lot of obesity, high cholesterol, diabetes, high blood pressure. So getting those things under control, working closely with your primary care doctor, having a surgeon that's on your side, an advocate that does a lot of these procedures all the time, are going to set you up for success.
I love it. Now so this is designed to be a segue, but I have a question for you, Dr. Newman. Like, because I talk to so many people that either have a scheduled, joint replacement or an unscheduled that's associated with a fall. But you alluded to it, is getting our houses ready for the return, especially with the falls. It seems like a lot of times people are given a choice, and it's sort of like, well, you could do your rehab in a rehab center, or you could go home and get rehab at home. And everybody's first choice is, oh yeah, I want to go home. But a lot of times our homes are radically different than the hospital room that we're recovering in, or the rehab center. Do you ever get concerned about that in terms of when you're sending your patients home for their rehab and they haven't really addressed anything in the home to make it a good environment to rehab in?
Yeah, it's a great point, Steve. Thank you for that. And yes, I believe that medicine is still a collaborative effort, and the treatment of people, hopefully, is very collaborative, which means somebody, a social worker, your family member, even a home modification specialist, should assess for loose carpeting, uneven, things in the floor, maybe having side rails, maybe having elevated toilet seats, maybe having easy access to your bath or shower. Really important, because like you said, Steve, nobody wants to become worse or sustain a fall in their own home, but it's certainly the more comfortable place for the majority of people. And this hospital at home concept is becoming more and more accepted. So there's physical therapists can come to your home. There's modalities to help control swelling, stiffness, and pain when you're in your home. And of course, I cannot, belittle or, not make enough point of exercise. And exercise is a crazy word. It means a lot of things to a lot of people. Doing the right exercise at the right time is going to set you up for success, going to diminish your feeling of falling. It's going to help you with your balance and your coordination and just feeling good after a surgery like this. Preparing your home, getting the food set up, getting your toilet and your shower ready, getting your bed maybe put on the first floor instead of having to climb up and down stairs for a temporary, temporary, right? You want to be able to get back to climbing stairs because I think that's a huge way to keep your stability, your balance, your strength, and allow you to stay as active as possible, age independently. And one thing I love about the NIPC is how collaborative we are and how there's so many different experts in the fields to help people succeed as they age. That's really so important for everyone.
I love it. And thank you, Dr. Newman. And we'll come back to you. And folks, if you got questions for Dr. Newman, but one thing that I want to thank you for is introducing me to the term hospital at home. I didn't even know that that existed. I did a quick search, and this is really a movement here, folks. I dropped a link in there from the American Hospital Association, but I see Johns Hopkins, everybody is jumping on board. So you just introduced another topic that we're definitely going to be discussing on this platform. We'll get some folks to talk about that. But let me jump from Dr. Newman to Sue Haviland, because when we talk about improving our environments, paying for it can sometimes be the biggest challenge. And Sue, you are an authority in helping people understand the different options that they might have. Share with us a little bit of your insight from the book on and help us with that.
Absolutely, Steve. Thank you very much. And once again, thanks for having us on today. And I think David really emphasized that point that this is a collaborative effort. We have all of these professionals and experts from many, many different fields, and it all comes together under these pillars of aging in place. And what I've found, I've been in the reverse mortgage space for over 20 years, and I can tell you I've had many, many conversations with families and loved ones about how they're going to pay for different things. Sometimes it's the care at home. Sometimes it's how are we going to perhaps renovate the home to make it aging in place friendly. I consider myself an aging in place enthusiast, I guess is the right word. And I tend to have what I consider a holistic conversation with families and loved ones when we're talking about how we're going to pay for different things, because the reverse mortgage or the use of home equity in retirement is only part of the picture. We need to look at the home and make sure that the home is suitable for the long term. And if it's not, then we need to look at a different option. Perhaps the person needs to move to a different location, another home. They can still maintain their status as a homeowner. You can purchase a home using a reverse mortgage. So perhaps there's another property that makes more sense. I also am the president and CEO of a fall prevention nonprofit here in Southwest Florida, where I live. And so I talk a lot about safety in the home. That's another one of my real areas of interest, is making sure that this is a good long-term solution for the client. What are their questions? What other areas do we need to address other than just whether to take out a reverse mortgage? It's a wonderful financial tool for the right person. And as with any financial product, you want to make sure that it's the right solution for that individual.
And
so that was where I contributed. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I know we could talk because we have talked for an hour on reverse mortgages, but I want to pick up on the right person. Can you kind of share with us sort of what are some of the sort of boxes to check to determine whether a reverse mortgage might be right for ourselves, our clients, or our loved ones?
Absolutely. Yes, really important. And I'm glad you brought that up. Just as a quick definition, reverse mortgages are generally, and we're talking about the most popular reverse mortgage, the FHA insured home equity conversion mortgage, 62 and over. And I think it's really important that the person intends to stay in the home over the long term. This is not a Band-Aid. This is not for someone who plans to move in 6 months. That's why we try to have this holistic discussion. And one of the topics that we talk about that's really, really important is dispelling some of the myths that surround the reverse mortgage. For example, I'm going to have to give up title to my home. Absolutely not. So if anyone's concerned about that, we talked to them about that. They're worried that their children are going to be against it. That's a big one. Quite frankly, when I have discussions with the entire family, either other family members or other trusted advisors, we find that that's not the case at all. Once we share the education about the product and the benefits of the product, usually everyone is on board and happy that mom and dad are taking a look at a reverse mortgage. But once again, it's got to be the right fit.
Okay, and we've got Nicole in the audience who says, this was such a huge relief for my parents in Ashburn, Virginia. Okay, all right, Sue, thank you for that overview. Now I'm going to jump to Melanie, and we're talking about giving up the car keys. And, I can't think of a more essential dialogue and related to aging in place, especially for those of us who live in car-dependent suburban homes, is that if you can't drive or if you don't want to drive, now aging in place can be a more isolating experience. And so share with us some of the insights on the challenges that people are faced and maybe some of the content of your chapter.
Thank you, Steve. So good to be here. So I think, for those that are on the call today that have aging parents, my number one thing is really think about going for a ride along, because what I'm seeing is that a lot of adult children will have a view about mum or dad's driving, but actually haven't been in the car with them for a number of years. But there are lots of warning signs that families need to be looking out for. And I cover all of that in the book. It's really too long to go into right now without kind of dominating the time. But I really think that people should be as proactive as they can in working with their parent and involving them in the conversation and knowing what supports are out there, what transportation options are there. The big concern is about the number of people that are being diagnosed with dementia and are still driving.
Oh man, this is one of my soapbox speeches, is that, we all know that you can't drive drunk. We know that you shouldn't be texting when you're driving, but we all know people with mild cognitive impairment and more severe dementia that are driving, and we've got to scream from the rooftops that this should not be happening. This is very dangerous.
And like David was saying earlier, right, health depends on, the individual person. Like you can't just kind of give a blanket statement with a certain age that you need to stop driving, or if you've got a medical condition. And so, but the reality is a lot of people in those early stages of whatever the dementia type might be, they are still driving. They estimate something like 30 to 40% still are, but we need to kind of be screening. And so most people by the middle stages of the disease will stop driving, but there are some people that haven't been diagnosed, that haven't been assessed, and the family is seeing changes and they don't know how to bring the topic up. It's just so upsetting. They're just so worried about the repercussions, about the relationship that they have, that there's going to be a lot of anger and resentment. And so there are warning signs, and I really stress for everyone, buy this book. I'm about 3/4 of the way through it, reading everybody's chapter, learning so much, because it is a collaboration. We all lean on each other, whether we're a professional or not. We all have somebody we know that is driving, where there are concerns, and where there are all the other issues like Sue's just talked about with aging in place safely at home. So I think that we all need to be as educated as we can. And the kinds of clients that come in to see me, a lot of the families are wanting to have a baseline, like maybe the mums come back home from having hip replacement with David, and they're not sure, they're seeing a real decline since she's had that surgery, or maybe she's not got the balance and the strength back, and they're just not sure if she should be driving. So there are in the United States, they're called driver rehabilitation specialists. I'm a driver rehabilitation professional. Occupational therapists are trained with the overview of it all, but in terms of driving, you want somebody that has that driver rehabilitation certification, that background, because it is a fairly specialized field now. But what else can I say about this? It's a tough conversation. My other number one thing is a lot of families think that the most authoritative, bombastic, outspoken person is the best one to talk to mum or dad about their driving concerns, and it typically backfires. Try and have the person that's closest to mum or dad, that has the better relationship, and save the role of the person who's more outspoken, save that person for enforcing any of the driving decisions. And so the reality is, when we have an older driver who's starting to self-regulate and starting to change their driving habits, like they're not driving out on the freeways, they're not driving at night, they're not out at sunset in the poor weather, being really careful about that. That is a reality check that things are starting to change. And so that's where that ride along, do it every time you visit with your parent if you're from out of town. I have a warning signs checklist that people can download from the website. And you don't do it in the car with them, because that's just going to add to the upset. But it's a good way to see if there's a pattern occurring, and just to kind of stay on top of that. And if you see a pattern, or you see, some alarming things, then it is good to kind of connect with somebody in your area. And I'm always happy, wherever you are in the United States, you can always send me an email or through the website or phone, and I will connect you with the resources that are in your area. It's all about this collaboration, regardless of where we are. And I'm in California, so happy
I
to
love
help.
it.
Yeah.
And all of our panel members, if you want to put your contact info on into chat, that would be great. Now, you talked about a certified driving rehabilitation specialist. Is this
there you are. And so
that's
people,
the organization? Okay.
yes, yeah,
I'll share that
ADED.
I'll share that with folks.
Wonderful. And you can go on there and you can search for find a provider, put in your state, and it'll list everyone. Unfortunately, there are not enough people that are certified. The next level down from that is a driver rehabilitation professional, which I just got my certification. But yeah, you can go on there and you can find somebody in your area, and people are really well connected and very happy to be a resource and help.
Okay, and I want to jump to Tara next, but before I do, I want to just, reiterate something that you said there is that, I think one of the things is talking about alternatives. I think so many times we are like, I got to get the keys. I'm going to pull the spark plugs. I'm going to do all these things so mom can't drive, but we're not creating an environment. Well, all we're doing now is just isolating mom, as opposed to, coming up with a rideshare solution, getting go-go grandparents, learning about the public transportation.
Yeah.
Do you find that sort of taking the keys away without having...
No, it doesn't work. It backfires. It can cause a lot of resentment, a lot of upset. This morning, I actually had a call where the mother is continuing to drive and she's really high risk, working really closely with the family. They've taken out the fuses, but she's called AAA wanting to get the car repaired, right? So, and that's the challenge when you have cognitive impairment. It's difficult when you continue to have the vehicle sitting outside in your driveway and you don't understand why you can't drive. You truly, the person with cognitive impairment, they truly believe that they're still a good, safe driver. And so as a family, you've got to meet them where they're at. But when you have those conversations, you really need to be strategic, be prepared, contact your local senior centre, contact your local city office, find out what are all the transportation options. There's a lot where people will be able to have rides through the paratransit support systems that they have, also through the volunteer driver programs. There's also private companies. It's certainly more challenging in a rural area, but quite often you'll find that the volunteer base is stronger and that friends and neighbours. And so my experience is when I talk with families and meet with them is if you've got a plan in place so that mum or dad know I still can go to church, I can still go play bingo, I can still go do bridge, and so is going to take me on these certain days. It seems to make that transition a whole lot easier than just taking away the keys, because the research says that those next 6 months after somebody has to give up the keys is they're at really high risk for depression because of the isolation if supports are not in place.
I love it. All right. Man, what a robust conversation we're having with these folks. So, Tara, I back to you, and I saw that you wrote the chapter on Social Security, but any other, you could, the canvas is open to talk about anything.
Well, thank you. I know we talked about transportation a lot, but I did just want to kind of mention one more thing about that. I wrote the transportation section in the first book. Melanie did the section in the second book. So it's always nice to have a professional doing it. But here, I'm in Orange County, and our Orange County Transit Authority, they do free training for older adults. And they will come to your house, or you can go to them. They do it in 5 different languages. And when they're done, they'll have somebody ride the bus with the older adult and show them how to get to their doctors. And they give them free ride passes and discounts during non-busy hours. So I think that this is a conversation that, and even with self-driving cars, I think it's something that is going to change as we go forward with all the AI that's coming out. But it's one of the topics that nobody talks about until it's too late. So I love that we're highlighting transportation. And then in this book, I did write the Social Security section, and I probably, like a lot of you, we've been around this industry long enough. We think we know about Social Security. My mind was blown. I didn't know how it was calculated. I thought it was on 10 years. Then I found out how it's really calculated. And it's really unfortunate that someone just doing it 1 month too soon can be financially penalized for the rest of their lives and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I think that's an area where they're just like, well, my neighbor did it this way, so I'm going to do it this way. And that is so not the case with this and so many topics in this book. Pretty much every topic in this book, you have to really focus on what you want and where you want your future to go. So in addition to these books, we also have a document called the Act 3 Planning Guide. It's a 26-page workbook that you can download from our website. Anyone can use it. You don't have to be a member of NAIPC. And it really walks you through 5 pillars, and it gives you questions just to start the conversation. So sometimes it might just be you address one question at dinner on Sunday night every week. Sometimes you got to phrase it so it's not like, let's go down this checklist, Mom, where you're just having a casual conversation, so there's not a lot of pressure. But I would really encourage folks, if you haven't seen it.
Now, where on the website is that checklist?
Oh, I'm not sure, because we redid the website. Oh, maybe it's under the Senior Start Your Plan. We also have podcasts that folks can go on and listen, but I can send you, when I stop talking, I'll see if I can find it on there.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, didn't mean to put you on the spot there, but it sounded great. Okay, well, Tara, like, for folks on that topic of when you apply for Social Security, so what is the time when you got to get prepared? Because I've heard people talking about this, and it is horrible that you could make this one wrong decision there's no wrong decisions. Make a decision at the beginning and you're penalized. So what is the date that people should be thinking about where they're in the position to activate this?
You know what? Honestly, it's a question when I started writing this book. I'm 47, going to be 48 this year. my husband and I started talking about it now. It's discussions now that will affect later. But there is in the chapter, there's a chart that kind of shows where everything is right now. But I would really suggest there's so many free resources out there. There's a nonprofit in Lady Lake, Florida called the AMAC Foundation, and they are social security experts. So they will talk to anyone completely complimentary and walk them through the whole process. So I would really encourage anyone that has questions to reach out to them because they know it.
And what was that foundation again?
The AMAC Foundation, AMAC Foundation.
Okay, cool. Again, another group that we're gonna want to feature on here, especially if they're committed to, and let me make sure that I got the right association here. It's this one.
Yes.
Social Security Advisory Service. Okay, got it. Yeah,
Fantastic.
okay.
Yeah,
Great.
fantastic group. And you know, the scary thing is for older adults who don't have, say, a support network, is this is one little piece of the pie that also there could be serious repercussions, even Medicare. If you don't apply for Medicare at the right time or your Part B or everything, you know, it can get really complicated. And now with Medicare Advantage plans coming out and the HMOs and the PPOs, and part of the hospital at home is these PACE programs, which I can't remember the name, but it's, you know, so confusing for folks. And instead of getting help, they just don't and pretend it's not happening. And then the social isolation happens and then the missed doctor's appointments. So it's all really tied together.
Excellent. Okay. And Mary Jo was asking best place to get Social Security advice. And I think this AMAC Foundation, as I'm looking at their website, looks to be a great place to start. Okay, so we've met all of our panel members. The topic is aging in place. Would love to address any and all sort of ideas and concepts and questions that you might have related to that. There's a couple of comments in here I wanted to address, they were related to driving. Kelly says, my observation is that it's just as difficult to take the keys away from someone with no cognitive impairment. We have a 99-year-old male client who left his car running to drop off mail, but did not put the vehicle into park. When he realized what happens, he tried to stop the car and was dragged for 30 feet, sustaining injuries. This happened last fall. He is asking to drive again. The DMV revoked his license unless he takes a safety class. He's willing, but his children are freaking out. Yeah, I mean, and the other thing to remember is that, folks, what that gentleman did, yes, he's 99, okay? But there's 16-year-olds that are doing that same thing. You know, like we can't sort of assign that age number to be like, oh, because he's 99 and doing that. However, if a 16-year-old did that, he would not be driving either. Okay. You know, it's a bad decision making, and we don't want those folks on the road because it could be injuring our kids and our grandkids, you know. But Melanie, any thoughts on sort of the cognitive and like this story that Kelly just shared? Oh, and I muted you, sorry. Oh, I guess I gotta ask you to unmute. Whoops. You can open up your mic, I think, Melanie. Oh, maybe. Okay.
Here we go. There we are.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a really sad story, and yeah, it was incredibly unfortunate for that gentleman. 99 years of age and still driving. I appreciate the concern that his family have, and that's where having a comprehensive driving assessment of his physical, cognitive, perceptual, vision is really important, because there are some drivers who are in their 90s that are fit, mentally fit and physically fit, And it really ties back into everything that we've all been talking about today, is about your health. That the healthier you are, it serves you well in your older, longer years. I myself am aging, we all are. But if you are able to like exercise regularly and control what you're putting in your mouth and having a good nutritious diet and, you know, having all those socializing activities and everything else, just seems to really serve you well, is what I'm seeing. But the whole premise here is that, I mean, in California, there isn't an age where you will lose your license. And so it does, in some respects, make it really difficult for families where they're seeing changes in their parent and they're not sure about where they need to go. And so that's where I really love the idea of having a driving assessment, because it's impartial, it's objective, they're evidence-based, and they come up with a lot of resources and can connect and collaborate and refer out. And then the family has some kind of baseline, the driver has a baseline, and then they can work together as a family unit to figure out what the next steps will be.
And as Ruth has mentioned in chat, a lot of this is that it's having alternatives. Like this gentleman who drove to the post office, he probably feels like he doesn't have an alternative, and it's knowing that there's rideshare programs and things like that. And Ruth brings up the villages as being a great option for people to get rides. I'm dropping into chat the Village to Village Network website. And if you're not familiar with these organizations, they're great organizations that support aging in place. Let's see. Deborah's got a question. I live in an independent senior living home. Need recommendations on who to contact for a visit to our community to discuss aging in place. Now, this is one of the interesting things. When we talk about aging in place, oftentimes we think of, I'm here in my home, my single family home, suburban neighborhood, but in senior living communities, and I found especially low and moderate income senior living communities where there's not as many supportive services, we need assistance in aging in place there to stay there safe and independent. Any words of wisdom on like who Deborah might reach out to? Like I think occupational therapists are wonderful to do an evaluation of our spaces, but any thoughts on that from the team?
Yeah, absolutely. I can hop in on this one. I mean, of course, I'm going to say call NAIPC and we can connect you with our members. We're all background checked. That is one requirement that we never waive. We make sure everyone is on the up and up. But also your area agency on aging might be a great place to look. The ACLs, even senior centers are also a great organization that has all of the local resources there. The elder care hotline, I can look that up. It's actually in the resource section of our first book, so I'll look it up.
I got it. I got it. Elder care locator. Yeah, I'm going to drop that one in. That is a really good place to start.
Mm-hmm. And in some cases, depending on your Medicare Advantage plan, it might be covered. The OT services might be covered, or if you're depending on how it's set up in your county, there's resources there. So if you want to reach out to me, I can help you in your specific area. But generally speaking, I love that elder care hotline. You can't go wrong with them. But Sue, you might have some other resources too in that area.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Tara, and it depends on where Deborah might be located, but everything that Tara mentioned is an excellent idea. Look up those local resources, and certainly at NAIPC, we are happy to connect you with someone who might be right in your area that could offer some additional guidance. So Deborah, please feel free to use NAIPC as a resource as well.
Yeah, and that's a good transition. I know I jumped on the website here earlier, but I want to go back there and just take a a glimpse at, because you had mentioned now you all do a variety of webinars and a podcast and things of that nature. Tara, share a little bit more about kind of some of the resources that people can get. And then also, we do have, I noticed, because I'm familiar with a lot of the people in the audience today, we do have professionals in the audience. So as a consumer, how can NAIPC help?
Well, we have identified over 65 different service providers in the aging services marketplace. So it's everything from what you think of, home health, things like that, but also mobile dog walkers and mobile hairstylists. You can see where our chapters are there, but there's all of the services provided. So if you need any assistance in any area, and it's growing every day. Someone's like, well, hey, you don't have any AI on here yet, so we're going to add, some things about that. It's growing, so we can certainly help with resources related to any of those topics, and then some. It's amazing. Our 400 members have this network of folks that really reaches far and wide and international. We've also had some calls on help getting people home, like that's why we have the category in the book, someone passed away overseas. We've had multiple calls about, people being sick or stuck overseas, or how to get, their loved ones home after deceased. So it's surprising the issues that are out there, but we can always find the resources to help somebody. We will never turn anyone away without helping. So,
and then it looks like you got a podcast here, and this is kind of cool. All these folks, I'm assuming, are some of those providers that are guests on the podcast.
Yes, absolutely. And we like to highlight our members and talk about why they do what they do. I think probably 95% of our members are here and in this space because they were dealing with a family situation of their own. And they just want to help other people not go through the pain and suffering they did. I know that's my case. I lost my father when he was 64 years old. There was a lot of medical issues, and we had to make that decision of taking him off life support. And there's so much that was happening during that time and so much misinformation that I think the passion that I have for helping people is the same as the rest of our members. We just want everyone to live a happy, healthy, secure life, because not everyone gets to grow old. I think growing old is an honor and a privilege, and we want to help people do that comfortably.
I love it. And then, okay, Ollie, this is a great question as a provider, and just folks, so you know, Ollie, he does aging in place remodeling. How can providers get on the website as a resource?
Great question. So to be listed as a resource, you do have to be a member of the organization. It's a yearly membership. It's $250 a year for individuals or $125 for nonprofits. And that gets you the listing on the website. Like I said before, we do require that background check. So anyone that you see on there has been vetted. And we have an ethics committee full of attorneys, yay, that handle any complaints that come up. Luckily, knock on wood, we haven't had any in our 18 years of being around, but that is how we kind of manage ourselves with things.
Yeah, and just go into the website, click on become a member, and then it leads you to the that page there. Okay, cool. All right.
I'd like to mention really quickly, I know that you said earlier in the beginning that you're friends with Louis Tenenbaum, and he is very active in our organization in the advocacy committee. That's something that has exploded in the last year. And for those of you that don't know Louis, he's really pushing federal legislation that would help provide tax breaks and tax incentives for anyone making aging in place improvements to their home. So the initial bill was HR 7676. It didn't pass, but we are reintroducing that, looking for sponsors. One of our original sponsors is now back. So we're hoping to light a fire under that again, but we're also looking to get involved in local state issues as well. So helping those we just had a meeting on Monday where Justin Oakley was speaking about legislation that he passed in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. So we're really about helping people locally as well as nationally in that committee. If anyone is interested, we'd love to have you as our guest.
Great, great. Now, I love this question is how would a community organization be able to plan for this kind of a discussion for our members who want to age in place? There's so much to learn. We could start with the book, but what about local expertise to facilitate the discussion? She's in Southeast Pennsylvania. Number one, to the person that is asking this question, one idea is almost like an aging in place book club, and everybody reads the book and have discussions, you know, like weekly discussions. I think it'd be a great way to utilize a book like this. But Tara, probably best thing could be that they reach out to you, and then you could connect them with some of your local members, and they could probably help facilitate a discussion like this. I think this is a brilliant idea.
Sure, absolutely. I would love to help with that. But also, I was able to attach that Act 3 document. That's a great way to start. That's very general questions that will just kind of help you direct the conversation, because the needs of someone in Southeast Pennsylvania aren't going to be the same as here in Orange County, California. So just kind of looking through that document is a great way to
yeah, I just let me see. I was just trying to download that. But in any event, that's great, folks. You can see that there, and I'll make sure to put an easy to use. Oh, here we go. I'll put an easy to use link to this document on the recording link for folks. But here is what Tara is talking about, and boy, my computer is moving slow today. Here we go. Okay, so this is the Act 3, Your Plan for Aging in Place, and it looks like, oh, this is great. This is very well organized, and it's got, you know, just a series of questions that you can ask. And you know, like, one idea for the person that asked that question about the discussion, one of the things is sometimes when you open up a document like this and you're all by yourself and you feel like you're all alone and you're the only one doing it, it can be really challenging. One of the things that I like the idea of for your group is, what if you get a group of friends or a collaboration and you do this together? And I think that could make it more fun and a better activity. There's a Goodwin Living has a program called Stronger Memory, where it's doing memory exercises. And what they've found is by doing this as a group exercise, it's a lot easier. You're not lonely. You're accountable because your friends are doing it with you.
Mm-hmm. I was just typing into the chat box. We have a member in Northern California who owns a winery. So she made it a wine tasting event, and each question she served them a different glass of wine. So there's lots of ways you can.
Oh man, I love that. Although, you know, that's probably then we need to find out the alternative driving situations to get back from this event, because not only are we answering a lot of questions, but there's probably people getting kind of angry and frustrated and confused, and they're just, you know, down in those bottles. Man, well, I have to say, this has been a great discussion today. I appreciate all of you coming on. I know that there's limited time that we can hear from any one of these experts, but I want to dive down some of the rabbit holes that you all introduced me to. And so perhaps we can get you all back on. And I'm still kind of blown away by Dr. Newman introducing me to the hospital at home concept. That is, I can't believe that nobody's brought that up on our 300 discussions. So I'm excited about that one. But any sort of closing words of wisdom from our panel members, and I'll keep an eye on the chat as well.
My pleasure, Steve. It's so nice to be here with all you guys today. And it is the wave of the future of medicine. And it's like anything in medicine, it's a slow road. But we maintain our optimism and we can start where we can.
I love it. All right, folks. Well, thanks so much, everybody. And we'll see you all at the next one. And thanks to the National Aging in Place Council for joining us, putting this book together and all that stuff. I'll get the recording up with links, and hope everybody has a great rest of the week.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great
Right.
day.